Welcome to the Coach's Decision. Disclaimer. The views, language, and candor expressed on this series are designed to provoke thought and conversation amongst adults.
Some opinions and perspectives may be unsuitable for those who are emotionally weak. Viewer discretion is advised. All right. Welcome to Coach's Decision with Chris P. Reed, where we dive into topics each week that could help you or someone close to you get through. Many of my clients are skilled at the game of life, but there are times you have to protect the player from themselves. There are times when you need to make a coach's decision. My top client and producer has decided to give you, the audience, a glimpse into his session each week to help him navigate these moments live. What you got for this week, bro?
Hey, I'm MOB. I got something that I was thinking about. How do I frame it? So you already know, you and people like you, your kind. So I'm talking about coaches, counselors, therapists. Y'all already know that in our lives, we've identified something that's not going right, or we have questions and we think we need to pivot. What do you think makes it so difficult for us to actually pivot? Because we spend the sessions telling you why we shouldn't pivot and why what we're doing is right. What's our problem?
The first thing it's not a problem. It's an inherited dynamic of the human consciousness. Yearn for comfort and stability, because you have to think the prehistoric man was always on the run. The prehistoric man was always dying of starvation. So they were always hyper paranoid. There was a sense of paranoia that they walked around with that kept them on a swivel and kept them always moving, because it was going to be eat or be eaten type of situation. And so the reality of it is that makes us all naturally adverse to change. And we just don't do well with change. People who like to change all the time have some type of psychological break or fracture that they need to have addressed with medication or whatever. When you can't just sit still and be cool, when you can't just be committed to anything, it means that you have something that's disrupting your spirit. But the idea of change is got to be moderated. And some people like it frequently. Some people like to lease cars, and some people like to pay their stuff off. The concept of what I call how long do you give it before you pivot means that you created a threshold when you first jumped into whatever you were jumping into to evaluate how valuable it is to you, how much it means to you, and how long you'd like to do that. Because I do believe there's nothing that you should be doing the same way, you know what I'm saying, as you were doing when you initially started, because things evolve. I just started watching, as a side, my brother told me to check out the rest of The Shy. I had watched some of it and then I came off of it, show on, I think it's on Showtime or Stars or something like that. But anyway, the gentleman, the gangster guy, he made a statement, and it was a quote. It was from a Greek philosopher, I believe. And he said, a man never walks into the same river twice, because he's not the same man and it's not the same river. And I was more focusing on the fact that he said it's not the same river. That water is constantly moving and cycling through the world. You and I talked about the fact that if you're a believer spiritually, then you don't have to go to the country of Jordan to be baptized in the river that Jesus was baptized in, because the current has put some of that Jesus juice all the way over to the creek down the street from my house, if I so desire to believe that. You know what I mean? So it's all about what you're willing to go through for change and how significant the change is. And the last thing I'll say to that is, these things are most difficult when you're not changing because you want to. You're changing because you feel compelled to. Whether that's by age, meaning you got to grow up and move out, or by your boss's edict, or by your spouse's appointment, or whatever the case may be. You don't want somebody to schedule it for you. You want to have a situation where you control the change, and then it doesn't feel like change. But you can't have growth without change. That's oxymoronic. The idea is everybody wants to grow and get better. If I said, do you want to make more next year than you did this year? You're going to say yes. There was a change there. And when things change. And you can't always calibrate how it's all going to align. Be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it.
Do you get a lot of clients that proactively change, or is there some force making
Yes.
them change? Because you just said that
Yes.
there's like it's a survival
Both.
technique.
It's a compulsion. So I think that what happens is the thing that I tend to preach to my clients most. I have a select group of clients, and they're pretty intellectually high level, like yourself, and so they've gotten that way from being driven and always being aspirational, always being aggressive, and not over aggressive, but always wanting more and seeing what else is out there, being adventurous. I'm always talking to you and others about buy yourself some flowers. You know what I'm saying? Don't wait for somebody to give you flowers. They sell flowers, go buy flowers. Also, smell the roses. You know what I'm saying? Create some milestones on your journey map or on your project plan that is your life to where you have a pit stop. Even in NASCAR, the fastest thing going, they have pit stops to maintain the equipment. A lot of times, what we end up doing is we end up going too fast and burning ourselves out. And then we're forced to change. Once again, it's a change that was going to come if we were moving, but it's always better when you do it on your own terms. You never go and buy a car once your car breaks down. That is the worst negotiating position to put yourself in, is to be in a purchasing position where you're compelled to do so. You want to do things when you're comfortably able to make those adjustments and then feel good about it and evaluate it, take it back if need be. So, I can say this: I've dated people in the past that didn't like to try things on, and it infuriated me because different brands make different contours of styles and things like that. So just because you wear a 8 in Levi's, don't mean you wear 8 in Calvin Klein's or Jabot's or whatever. You know what I mean? And now we here with this garment that you done ordered, and you frustrated because you got to do so much more work when you could have just tried that thing on when we was at the mall last Saturday. I digress. The thing about change is sometimes we want it to make us feel alive. We want it to make us feel normal or human. And then sometimes we want to be in a situation where we just want to be cool and be steady. And it's just like vacation. Vacations are great to go on. You don't want to live there. People think they want to live at the beach. They really do. They think they want to live in a cabin. You don't. You want experiences. You don't want to reside in these dynamics.
So Jasmine Reed is saying, leave us neurodivergent people alone. Needing medicine is okay. Thank God for medicine. First, I'll say I applaud people who need medicine and take it. It's those people who
Right.
need it and don't take it that I have an issue with. But
Absolutely.
your response to that?
Admitting you have a problem is the first step in solving it. That's very old cliche. The situation is we're all somewhat neurodivergent. It's not a situation where everybody's exactly how society as a whole thinks they're supposed to be. There are quirks and nuances. We had a conversation as fellas about one time about vices. Chris was buying cars and fixing them up. You know what I'm saying? I was buying cologne at the time. Everybody has something that they was willing to put more money than other people would be comfortable putting on it because that was their thing. That was their niche, right? So obviously everybody's not for everybody. Everybody's not for everyone. Everyone's style doesn't coalesce very well. So I believe that it's because of the neurodivergence of people. It's when you have people who want to have converting conversations and force your opinion to align with theirs when they aren't aligned with what the textbook or history has said. Now we have to be careful at this point in time because, as you know, the world is growing much faster than it used to at one point in time because of mass communication and travel and exposure. Exposure expands expectations. And so what happens is you get exposed to other people who think like you or who who get down like you get down on the interweb, and you feel validated in your kookiness. You feel validated in you having these dreams that somebody's going to come and save you, or you're going to go and save 4 people, or all these different things that people tend to align with. It was a time where we were in villages or in tighter quarters where you weren't allowed to go too far away from the herd in thought and in action. Everybody had to get along. Now you could have the EJ Johnsons of the world and nobody cares. Imagine Magic Johnson's son being 6'7" or whatever with Daisy Dukes on in the 7. It just doesn't. It wouldn't be set the same. The idea of he has a different way of seeing himself and is able to explore that is acceptable now. And so therefore more people are going to be on a spectrum or neurodivergent because of access to being able to diagnose these things. It used to be a situation where if you wasn't like the crowd or you wasn't like the town, you was crazy. You was going to the crazy house. They don't even have federally advised mental institutions anymore. But if you weren't doing what we were doing, you were going to get committed for that. You was going to get lobotomized or shocked or fixed. They had fat camp and gay camp and all these different camps to fix you because you wasn't rocking like the rest of the people was rocking. And now we've realized that human beings are not monolithic. We're not just cookie cutter in that regard. So when you find people that are vibrating on your frequency, we talked about this before. When you find people that are vibrating on your frequency, tap in and it'll amplify your frequency. But when you're in a situation, you're constantly at odds with people, is because you're not vibrating consistently, or you're working with people outside of your frequency range.
So, what are some of the dangers in not changing your mindset? Because I know we talked a little bit about when we're stubborn and not changing our mindset or our from our old self or evolving, whatever we want to call it. We can lose relationships with children,
Appropriately.
parents,
It's appropriate.
siblings, or whatever. So we're
Mhm.
if we're stuck, we don't get
Mhm.
that relationship. In some cases, like a grandchild.
The situation in that regard is you have to live with you. You got to make your bed and lay in it. And I have a lot of respect for people who stand on whatever they're on without excuses and without qualifications. Somebody said a couple weeks ago, unapologetically, when you start qualifying the things that you know what I mean? When you start making concessions and qualifying, well, I did this because of this and because of that, and none of it was because I really wanted to do it. It was because I cared about what people thought, said, felt, or believed, not me, other people. Those are the type of things that you change in the wrong fashion for. If you are this person, we had a conversation years ago about me not liking spicy food or me not liking soul food. And people saying, well, you just ain't had my possum. You just ain't had grandma's, whatever. I don't want that. I don't care who's preparing it.
I want
I
nobody
know that
cooking.
I don't want it. And it's okay that you do want it. Once again, people try to have converting conversations to bring you onto their way of thought or their wavelength in life. And that's where, when you start to change, you're doing yourself a disservice. Being stubborn is not it's not prideful if you know that you don't want to be a Buddhist. If you move to a country and the predominant population is Buddhist and you remain Christian or Muslim, I don't consider that being stubborn. I consider that being convicted. And it's okay to have conviction and stability and consistency and continuity in your life. But you have to be willing to do it and not have to feel like you have to explain it or apologize for it. Because that's what happens, is that people get talked into stuff and then they say, man, I would have never did if you hadn't said. So I'm always careful, even when I'm coaching, to make sure that I'm making sure we understand the destination that you have desired. And in order to get to that destination, I can give you 2 or 3 routes. Which one do you feel more comfortable taking? And then we go from there. But if I come off just prescribing, you need to talk to this kind of woman, she need to be this tall, have this type of GPA in the 8th grade, and all these other things, I'm doing you a disservice, because now we're shrinking the aperture so much that you're going to have a slight chance of being successful, and you don't allow for yourself to be nimble in life, because life is fluid. Shit happens. So if you get too prescriptive and just don't want to change, you're that old person that just, I hate the way music is, I hate the way people drive, I hate the way they cuss on TV, I hate the way you're a prisoner to the evolution of human beings. You're a prisoner to it, and you're going to die miserable because you just can't get over yourself and realize, I'm just going to stick with what I know and keep all that other stuff away from me. It's when you try to go out and shame the people for being like this, shame these girls for showing their bra straps and all this. It's just like, who cares? So you got to get over yourself. I have actually been in a conversation about that before.
Let me dip over to the chat. Monique Jones is saying you have to have grace with folks in the relationship. If the relationship is valuable to you, put in work to maintain that relationship. It's okay to have differences of opinions and still have something that's special to y'all. I go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, I want you. This is good. Show me
Oh,
what you got. Yes.
I think I have to go back with creating balance. I think you can give too much to people. It's okay to have some grace, but they better have some grace too. You can't be the only one gracing around this mug.
Right,
When you
right,
bless the
right,
food, everybody's food is blessed. You can't have it like
right,
so.
right, right.
If they don't show that they are have grace for your personality as well, then I think the relationship ain't worth it. But the coach,
When I was drafting contracts for all those years, one of the early tricks that I learned was circle all of the ands and ors in a sentence, because it's a distinct difference if there's an and there or an or there, correct? And so the idea of words matter, and we've had these conversations before about me being big on semantics. My grandma used to say, you only have to do 2 things, and that's stay black and die. Everything else you don't have to do. The greatest gift that God bestowed upon us is free will. So when she started that statement and you read it, or you either interpret it where you have to whatever, tend to, I'm still listening, but I don't want anyone to feel compelled to do anything with me, relationship or otherwise. You should want things more than you need things from others, and you should want to more than you feel like you have to. I don't want people to feel like they have to respect me. I want people to want to respect me. I want people to want to listen to us and impart their wisdom on us and join us. I don't want them to feel like they have to do it. You know what I mean? I know people say it's death and taxes, but you don't have to pay taxes. You can go to jail over that. You know what I'm saying? You can go, but you have to die. And we will get into that. We've made jokes about the Ruckus and Michael Jackson stuff before, but as far as the stay in black part. But the idea of having to, I always am going to be kind of weirded out by that as a starting point. Please don't ever feel compelled or like you have to do anything. Now, if you reread that statement and say you want to be in a relationship and you want to, then that gives you power and that gives you options. And the reason why we do all these things, we do go to work and work out and whatever, is to have options at some point, to make a decision to just stay at the crib and do a staycation, or go to the beach and take your shirt off and not be in the water with a t-shirt on.
Okay. Any thoughts on Jessica? She's saying sometimes personal growth requires stepping back, even from loved ones, so you can create the space needed to evolve. Sorry, I can't read, but this is small. To evolve
That's
your
cool.
mindset.
Let me say this once again. Here I'm doing the word Nazi thing. Stepping away or stepping forward is what I would program to you say if you were being coached by me. I wouldn't say stepping back, because people take a connotation to negatively or retreating in stepping back. I believe you step forward or you graduate. I'll use the term graduate a lot, right? You graduate out of that season, reason. So people are in your life for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. And so in the idea of this person was in your life for that season, respect that and appreciate that. I'll give a quick story. My dad had a chair, and he was upset about the fact that the chair, his wife did something with the chair. She got rid of the chair. And so I had joined him emotionally in his vitriol over this chair no longer being there. But I've been trained to ask more layers of questioning. I'll cut to the chase on this. He had got the chair used. He had had the chair for a number of years, and he had been done, got the money's worth out of this chair. And at this point, him holding on to it was disrespectful to Lazy Boy or whoever manufactured the chair, because it had done what it was supposed to do. I have a situation with my aunt where my grandmother's house she bought the house in 58, right? She bought the house in 58, and we still trying to hold on for dear life. The house raised not only her kids, but nieces, nephews, brothers, sisters. That let's respect this house and give it a good home going. Let the house be. We trying to squeeze this house for everything a little bit. And I believe that's disrespectful to the memory of the home. The home did its job. We can't hate on it because the pipes is lead and it's, or the pipe, it's asbestos in the wall and all of that. That house was what it was when it was. And I think about people in the idea of dudes getting all this stuff in their hair, these wigs and all this other stuff, and women getting all these accentuations placed upon themselves. Age gracefully. Be comfortable in how you're made. If you're not, be comfortable in how God has prepared you to fix that with time, effort, diet, energy. But when you start trying to do it for filters to be better, or for people to be faked out as to who you actually are, now hopefully you passed the point where there was a situation in China where the woman had so much surgery, and then he married her, they had a baby, and the baby came out looking like she used to look, and he sued her because genetics don't do this. It don't make that kind of leap, right? And so you have to be comfortable in your own skin, and you have to be comfortable with your lot in life at some point in time. If you're that uncomfortable with your lot in life, I would absolutely recommend you seek a psychologist or a psychiatrist to have a conversation with, because it's deeper than something that coaching or therapy could work you through. That's a level of self-awareness or self-loathing that you have to have maybe medication or a regimen to get behind, to understand why it's so deep-seated that you don't like yourself, because you've had ample opportunity to know you, learn you, and grow to love you.
All right, let me go to a comment and then a question. Jasmine said, mindset change is wise and necessary. That was me being unapologetically is freeing. She's the one who said that.
Okay.
And then we can go to Jessica and say, who says, do you think two people should have the same mindset in order to connect or have a relationship?
Absolutely. Listen, but let me, another distinction in words.
That's not
a similar mindset, but you have to have a yin yang dynamic at some point. We both can't be mopping. Somebody should be dusting. There can't be, and I've said this on previous shows, you can't be with yourself. That would be exhausting. You have to have a situation where somebody counterbalances. That doesn't mean polar opposites. That doesn't mean you're Christian and she's Muslim, or you are Black Panther and she's Aryan Nation. That doesn't make sense. What I am saying is there's certain core things, whether it be family values, economic pursuits, educational interest, sci-fi or anime. Y'all have to have something that y'all willing to talk about and enjoy about each other. Food preferences. Worst thing, I had a relationship years ago in college, and she decided to go vegan. It was the beginning of the end of that long relationship. Couldn't have, I don't believe I was willing to or could have changed enough for us to interact while she had such a dietary difference than I did, because we couldn't enjoy meals together. At the time, they wasn't making stuff that tastes like tofurkey. They wasn't doing all this. They didn't have these things that could trick you. Impossible. They didn't have Impossible Whoppers at Burger King, right? So any idea that she was vegan and she started looking at saturated fats. This is when what was the Splenda and all these different sugars was coming out. When we was young, it was what it was. It wasn't no artificial this and artificial that, and yeah. But who was doing that? Who was doing that? Yeah, nobody was doing that. They was talking about that was before cell phones was causing cancer. That was causing cancer. Now everything caused cancer. Like, they never blamed it on the cigarettes though. Never blamed it on the tobacco. But I digress. But the concept is, I don't think it's healthy to have an echo chamber as a partner. I believe it's healthy to have somebody to challenge you, enhance you, and correct you when need be. It's no person that's walking around, even I, that is always correct. You have to have somebody willing to call you on your shit. You have to have somebody willing to say, that doesn't make sense and you know it. Stop playing around. But you have to also be willing to be that person for that person constructively. I think that the issue is when you get people that are too much alike, and we talked about the Bonnie and Clyde thing, then you get to a point where y'all are not helping each other grow because you're just reflecting each other. There is no reason to go to the next level because I'm so comfortable at this level. And you look up and it's 15 years and y'all been in this apartment the whole time and y'all still in the same role and title at your job the whole time. Now, if you love that and embrace that, but don't get to the point where you feel like you took my good years. You held me back because I knew what I really wanted, but I settled until I was drained. And now the next guy inherits the woman that settled for so long. And so now you're opining of the woman you saw yourself as 10 years ago, and she died. You smothered her with this person that you was trying to convert. Once again, it goes back to that convergent dynamic. So I think when you have people that are too much alike, that's weird because that's narcissistic. It's very narcissistic to want somebody just like you.
So we had another comment from Jasmine saying, very true. Okay. Reciprocity is required, and I want them to want to give that. We have to have this conversation about counting too much at some point.
We do
want other people to want something, but your thoughts on that?
I think, but so how I took that is she wants the best for them and she wants them to want what's best for them in the idea of how they find their happiness. Not necessarily she wants a tactical want, meaning this has to happen, that has to happen, but it's more thematic of if you find that to be your happy place or your love language or your happy spot, you like it, I love it. And I know you disagree with that statement, but the idea of and what I'm implying in that is you like it for you, I love it for you. Because at some point in time, me hating something that you like so much is going to draw a wedge in between you and the cars. I've expressed myself about the cars that you choose to purchase. You could care less. You could care less about my expression. It'll be something that I say at your funeral service. Yeah, you did. You did. You said duly noted. And I said, okay. So it's those type of things when you do have concern or care for someone and you have a relationship that you've created an equity in, then you want to continue to build that or express yourself appropriately, constructively, not just saying stuff to be saying stuff, but in the idea of, like you said about the counting, wanting them. I think when she says you want them to want this or that, I think it's not enough that they want it. When there's two people involved, they have to want it and have a great way of communicating it. That's not always verbal. You don't know. We got to learn love languages. We got to learn, different ways to get your point across. But you let them know in actions or whatever the language is, how you want the same thing that they want in those things. That's what gives you the dopamine drip. That's what makes you pleased and happy and settled and comfortable in this life. Because life is going to automatically and naturally provide discomforts. It's built for that. Life is built, whether it be traffic or kids crying or kids getting sick or bills, or it's going to bring its own discomfort. You don't have to go reach for that. You don't have to go build that. I'm not sure if my sister Kendra is on the call, but we had a conversation years ago where she was telling me that she was dating guys and would start testing them. Like, for what? For what? Like, life is gonna test the relationship enough. You don't have to pressure test an adult relationship. Trust me. I swear, if you stop testing, you'll realize that it's already tests that are existing and you're piling on to said test. You don't have to contrive test in order to see if he's a real one. He'll show himself shortly. Like, it's not that difficult. And so that's the advice I would give there.
Looks like we have another question. Just Chevy Chev.
All right.
So being unequally yoked is better than being equally yoked?
In this regard, I don't think the term equal translated well from wherever it came from biblically. I think that there are no two people that are, even Adam and Eve weren't exactly alike, and they was the only two at the time, allegedly. So the reality of two people being, even twins aren't exactly alike. I think we have to give some grace, somebody said it earlier, to the term equal. I believe there are certain core tenets in what you find to be success that you want to make sure are calibrated on the same frequency as the other person. That means if you I'm going to use it from a women's perspective to a guy. This guy is the height that you want. He has the relationship with his mom that you want. He has the eye color that you desire. He can cook, meals, and he has all these boxes that women tend to create on a checklist. It just so happens he's a significant heroin addict. You're not equally yoked because you don't want a heroin addict. Like, all those other things are cool. You don't want a heroin addict. That canceled out. It outweighed the other things. So when you start trying to create a chart, a number graph for equally yoked, you're always going to lose because the number is never going to be 72 to 1,672. It's got to be a counterbalance. And this is what we was talking about the 44-ounce glass and the 20-ounce glass. 100% is 100%. That's not equal. That's not equal amounts of capacity. But the effort has to be equally yoked. The effort to make me happy, the effort for you to make her happy, that has to be equal in the idea of I should be able to express myself and say, I don't know if God sent me here to get you off the heroin, but everything about you is great except for the heroin. Do you have any desire to get up off this heroin? Like, do you have any? Because I'm here for it. If you could just get him off the heroin, he would be a great guy. And if he shows you that all he needed was somebody to believe in him, you just created a good situation. And that's a wonderful thing. But if he showed you, forget what he says, time will tell you whatever you need to hear. If he shows you he just can't kick it, you weren't worth it. It's okay. His life and his progress or his trajectory wasn't worth it to him as well. It's okay. You have to start being okay with things. You got to get over yourself and realize this wasn't for you, no matter how much you thought it was. I think a lot of times we get a little arrogant in what God has for us and has bestowed to us, and we think we can call shots, and that causes a problem.
So I got a not hair run. So Kendra doesn't test anymore. They fell on their own. I want to kind of
So I can't get into that because it's a longer dynamic. But what I can say is you have a right to ask questions, have standards, and be selective if you're okay with somebody else exercising that right with you. What happens a lot of times is people have these rules, and I would never date a guy with 2 kids, or that's divorced or whatever. And then you say, I thought you was divorced. I am, but my circumstances, and then they give all these qualifications as to why they're better than what they're saying. You are what your record says you are. It is what it is. It's okay. But when you start saying, I don't want this, but this is exactly what I bring to the table. I don't want a guy who makes less than 6 figures. And then when you talk, okay, well, how much do you make? 5 figures. What are we talking about? And I'm not saying finance is equally yoked. It's a lot of layers that go into the equally yoked conversation. That's why I really didn't want to. This is not a forum where we have to make a series and break the equally yoked thing down for balance. But the idea of stop looking for something so specific and so prescribed unless we're talking about theoretical love things, meaning I want somebody that I know cares about me, cares about the things that I care about, and wants the best for me, even if that means it's not with me. Because there's been situations or relationships that I've had where we didn't mean each other any good any longer. Not that I didn't love her, not that I didn't think it could work, but I just felt like we had reached a plateau. There was a situation where something would have to change, and it's unfair. at this point too, because I had hinted. I think in relationship, you hint about the change. I really love it if we start going on walks more. We start doing this more. And then when you the only one up walking, that ain't what she want. That ain't what she wants. So you just got to kind of read the room and understand what's going on there.
I'll ask you your final thoughts, but I do have a quote from a wise gentleman, Riza Islam. He
Okay.
said, "In our life, we're imitating the winner. So
Mhm.
even if you see someone trying to be like someone else, they're imitating who they think is the winner. If you're trying to be
Mhm.
yourself, you think you're a winner. You're
Mhm.
imitating that winner. And we look to, if we're not winning, we're looking to coaches like yourself or therapists to help point out things that we may not recognize or to help us get over things that we do recognize to help us win." Any final thoughts or comments to that?
I have two comments to that. I heard this quote before, and it is the greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love to be loved in return. I'll say it one more time. The greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love to be loved in return. That's the reciprocity that somebody brought up earlier and things of that nature. The reality of life is if you skipping and snapping your fingers and singing all the time, something's wrong with you. Just it ebbs and flows so much. You know, love is a smoke made up of fumes of sighs. And a sigh can be a good thing. It could be a relief sigh, or it could be a exasperation sigh. But that's how love is. It's hazy. It's foggy. It's not something that you can put a chart. I'll give you a better example. Show me your pain. Share it with me. The idea of pain being on a chart at a doctor's office is psychologically sound on a scale of 1 to 10 frowny faces. They would never be able to do that and translate the idea of love because what you consider to be I'm in love is not the same threshold that I would have for love. You know what I'm saying? You could say you love. My wife doesn't believe in love at first sight. Now, she believes I need to know your favorite color, your middle name, who your mama and them is. Like it's a lot of qualifications that are scientific for her to then give the emotion of love. I
I
am
agree with
not
her.
that dogmatic as it relates to love. It's a feeling.
I
And
agree
I'm
with
okay
her.
with it being
And
art
be
more
good
than
with it. Yeah,
science.
they can have a big button to smash.
Right, right. So I'm okay with it being more art than science, but you have to be good with what you are good with. And I believe that, you know, one of the things that we get sidetracked on is how is this going to play if I have to translate or convert my friends or the people that care about me to this way of thought. And if you can get over that and feel like you don't have to report back to the village, you can find so much peace and figure it out so much faster because then you can break down the walls and be yourself. You could, it's okay to say, now listen, if you're being yourself, it's okay to say, I ran him off quickly. If you're challenging testing him and running him off quickly, and you're being fake. Maybe some people are just challengers, testers, and that's just how they want somebody that's, but beware of a dude that has to conquest you because he's a conqueror. He's gonna always be, it's not gonna stop because you're done. Like, okay, you've proven it. He's like, no, what you talking about? I wasn't proving nothing. That's my regular speed. So you just got to be mindful of things like that as you navigate in the world of relationships and interacting with people. And when we talk about equally yoked and creating balance, you can feel it's a feeling. Like I said, driving a stick shift, you could feel when it's time to make moves and change things. And you can't stay in that gear for too long, or else you're gonna mess up the clutch and you're gonna burn out the engine. I like that. That was good. That burn out the engine.
It's a lot of thoughts on there about the Heron. They think you could have started at Pokemon cards, something like that.
I'm not. Well. Let me say this. It's funny because I was about to say I'm not as familiar with Pokemon cards, but I'm also not familiar with heroin. Okay, so I don't. I do not want y'all to walk away thinking this man understands
Mhm.
the heroin game. I just know
So
that it's a hard, addictive drug that's hard to break.
okay,
And
so you say.
once again, so when we and what made me think of it was vices. We were talking about vices, and some vices are very negative. Now we got a guy who got a nice vehicle. What kind of, is that?
It is.
With the peanut butter seat. So he has a
Mhm.
vice of hooking up an old school vehicle that he saw when he's a visionary. Okay, and so I remember years ago we had a conversation, and he told me he was gonna get a dog, and he was gonna get a truck, and he was gonna get a car like a gentleman had down the street from his uncle's house when he was 6 years old. Okay, and guess what he did? He did that because he manifested that based off of desire and effort. And it turned into something that he's able to accentuate and actualize into his real life. Now, my fear for him is I don't know what else he saw or where his dreams are next, But because me and my wife had a conversation. Is he ever going to be done with this car? Because it's the forever dream project, fantasy. Because it's something you got to be careful when you come up with things when you're a child. You had a level of imagination and a lack of restraint in your childhood as how you saw things. I take my daughters back to the house that I grew up in my formative years. And when I was a kid, that backyard looked like a football field. It was a foot. I'm telling you, bro, we played
Oh yeah,
6-on-6 football in that backyard.
yeah.
That backyard couldn't fit 4 cars. Like it couldn't fit 4 mid-sized vehicles in it. And I went back to there as an adult and was like, this is trash. But your imagination as a child doesn't allow for you to see those limitations. So sometimes when you have these dreams as a young lady of the man you want to be with, or of the job you want to have, or all these other things, you have to then reevaluate those evaluations or those thresholds from an adult point of view. When I was a child, I thought and acted as a child. And then when I became an adult, I gave up childish ways.
Can
Do your
anyone
people
change their
disagree
mind?
with me? Because your people tend to be hard on me with this stuff.
No, no, that not yet.
Okay.
But can anyone change their mindset? Can Chucky, if he wanted to be a better citizen or a
Yeah.
functioning citizen in society, can he change his mindset?
From here on, he can. He has to answer. This is the problem. This is the problem with the surgeries and all this other stuff. You can't be born again. Once you develop a reputation, let me explain to you what this born again thing. Whew, golly, this is a session too. The born again concept is a covenant with you and your God or your deity. It's not a societal born again thing. Stop thinking if you go to jail and do your time, they act like you didn't go to jail. Stop thinking if you beat this woman or if you cheat on this woman and you ain't did that in 20 years, you're no longer seen as. No, that's not how people work. That's not how people operate. You can't be in a situation where you're born again and absolved. Chucky was killing people and then he became the hero in the last movie. No, I still have a side eye for Chucky because he's proven himself to be a killer. It's those people that I grew up with and ran with. Me and my brother just had this conversation. I'm not going to say any names because I don't want to be disrespectful, but it was a dude that finally got killed in his late 30s. And when I found out that he had got killed, I was like, oh, cool. I didn't realize he was going to make it this long. Everything he did told me and the world he didn't want to be here long. Like that's what I was stunned to find out that he had just been recently killed, because that's kind of once you develop that. And I'm not saying you can't change, but you can change, but don't expect for everybody to forget. Like was in the Dion episode, I can forgive you, but that don't mean I have to fool with you. You can forgive people and be Christian and all this other stuff, but that don't mean you have to invite them over. And when exes be going on dinners and cruises with their exes and they fell out and she cheated on you with your brother and all. No, let that go.
There's people out there rooting for Charles Lee Ray and think he can change.
Who is Charles Lee Ray? Who is this? I'm sorry.
Chucky, that's his real name.
Oh man,
Come on, man.
I don't
Tell
watch
us about
scary
the
movies
dream,
because
folks. Tell us
that
about the
pollutes
dream. Tell us about the dream.
that pollutes your brain. The dream was early in the week, and so I started losing it. I was like, I need to write this down. Let me go to my notes. Oh, okay, cool. The house that I said my grandmother had that she got in 1958, and it's probably 120 years old now. I think it was built in like 02, 1902. I had a best friend. I have a best friend. He is my best friend. And he came on hard times and needed a place to stay. And in my dream, in the dream of the week, I set it up with my grandmother where he could stay in the back room at her house. Okay. And the back room of the house was kind of on the corner of the house, and it led out to an alley. Like when you go out that back room, you go right into the alley. And for whatever reason, he called me to tell me that the door kept coming up missing on the back door going to the outside of the house. And nowadays it wouldn't be a room because it didn't have a closet, so it didn't have a closet. But moral of the story is, so when I got over there to check on it to find out why, because he had showed me in pictures, it was a wooden door, it was a steel door, it was a glass screen door. He just kept waking up and the door would be missing. Like somebody kept taking the door. And so by the time I get over there, he had mattresses put up, like twin size mattresses put up in the doorway. It's my dream, man. And I was like, okay, we're going to figure out this door thing until you can get out of here. You know what I mean? Because my grandma didn't care. My grandma could care. It's a real life story. My grandma could care less, right? What was going on back there. He said, okay, well, we'll get this figured out. I need you to take me to pick up my girl. And I said, cool. My grandmother's at the house and a couple of my aunts are at the house. And where his girl worked was at a place, it was like a call center type environment. Okay. It's called Afney. If y'all from around there, y'all know Afney. So I said, okay, I'm gonna pick up some chicken at this chicken place. Now in my head, I'm gonna treat everybody to chicken. You for your pain and suffrage at my grandma's house, my grandma, my aunts, me, and that's what we gonna do. When we get to your girl job, it's a situation where she comes out in some red overalls, okay, with like a fresh white tank top, a fresh stretchy white tank top underneath, some red overalls, but she got 3 people with her, and I don't do that. I don't do that surprise, take everybody around Uber type stuff. And so they had a distance to get to us because we didn't pull up to the door. They had a distance to get to us. And so I'm thinking to myself, so I turned to you and was like, is she just, because we're like the only car out there, are they just walking her to the car to get in? Because it's a 5-passenger. Like everybody's not getting in. And I don't even know I don't know these people. I don't know where they live. I don't know what they got on them. And I'm not going to feel comfortable going right there and getting this chicken with all these people in the car. And he was like, no, it'd be cool. They probably don't need a ride. They probably are just walking her. And she get to the window and you roll it down. And she was like, can you give my friends a ride? And that's when I woke up.
Did you speed off or you woke up?
No, I woke up. I wasn't going to give her a ride though. I swear, listen to me. I know me. I don't care what happened to our friendship. I don't care what I'm not doing that. You're not going to do that. You're not going to call and ask for a ride and need 4 rides. It's never going to be okay with me. It's never going to happen.
You have an issue with boundaries. I'm noticing a door thing with you. Doors being violated, opened, unlocked, removed.
Thank you. I did think about that.
You feel like your boundary needs to stay intact. It's either in jeopardy or it's been violated. Yeah, if you're going through, hey, I'm the expert dream interpreter, so whatever.
Right, exactly. Exactly. What your people think?
We just have to make sure we aren't operating from a place of brokenness. Maybe that's from the topic of mindset. And then I can't forgive, but you lose the same access to me. I think that's what that.
Okay. Let me say this though, because it's very valuable that whoever said the brokenness thing. Let me explain to you how dangerous that is.
Just Chevy Chev. Mm-hmm.
Chevy Chev, you can't proofread your own work. You don't know how broke you are or where you are in your brokenness unless you have an accountability buddy, a girlfriend, a sister, or somebody that you keep it real with. Now, if you lie to them, if you give them half information, they're going to give you half advice with good intentions. With fully good intentions, they will tell you half of what you need because you're giving them half of what they have to work on. But if you have somebody you can be candid and open and say, I shouldn't have done this, or I shouldn't have went through his phone, or whatever the case may be, and you can be that person, you need that. But you can't be left to your own devices to know if you are broken or whole or healed. Like Essence say, you can't give yourself a nickname, and you can't be the arbiter of how great you are psychologically. That is a dangerous game to play. I would advise that if you've been doing it, stop. And if you are thinking about doing it, don't. Get somebody that you can calibrate these thoughts and ideas off of. Get a focus group if possible. But you don't want to make an assessment of, okay, I'm healed now, I'll go forward. Because that's dangerous for you long term.
Phone be tripping. Oh, I got you, Jasmine. I got you. It tripped me up for a second. Monique don't think you should ever go to sleep again. What else we got here?
They don't be dangerous. I used to have violent, dangerous dreams. These are very, very whimsical, all things considered. And I did notice a theme of me assisting others in my subconscious. I'm always trying to look out. Remember, I had the situation where I was trying to get my brother the room in the shed. And in this situation, I had my best friend moving in with my grandma. Like I'm very, very, unselfish in my dreams. At least in my dreams, I am.
Lindsay Renee said not being a hypocrite. I want her to expand on that. There is
okay.
a little.
I got time for that.
When the comments come in,
that's okay. I got time for that. Let's explain not being a hypocrite.
Jonathan said,
you have to do that now in this Trump administration because nobody has to stick by anything.
Jonathan Payne, preach. What up, fellas? Jessica, what if you feel freed and healed?
That is excellent. No. Phone a friend. Phone a friend and you can't proofread your own work. You can feel what you want to feel. It doesn't come off like you think it does. I'm telling you, it doesn't. And you got to have a person. It is, and I'm saying this to be sensitive. If you need to outsource somebody who doesn't have a stake in the game and who can listen and assess your situation and tell you from a logical, classic perspective how things are, people's lives are nuanced though. So sometimes having that background really does help. But if you find yourself in a situation where you done fell out with your sisters, your uncles, your children, your mom and them, and there's nobody that loves you enough to tell you the truth, it's because they've been telling you the truth the whole time. And that's why you've fallen out with them all. Like, it's real simple math here. But you have to have somebody that you're honest and candid and transparent with. And you can feel that they calling your bullshit and they're being honest, transparent, and understanding with you. And those are the people you lean into. That's the drum you beat until you come up with a whole song. Did the hypocrite person come back and provide any context? Because I thought that was vague.
Not yet, not yet.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, you got a lot of comments today. I think this is the longest you ever went over.
I apologize.
What if those people are mad because you don't want to be like them? You think you're better than them. Wait. Forget that. Let's go back to the hypocrite.
Okay, because I got something for that too.
She was referring to wanting a person to not be divorced, but you're divorced. Yeah. Or not.
Listen to me.
I've heard of people who don't want someone with kids and they have kids.
Yeah, that's correct. The issue is this: styles make fights and everything is circumstantial. So to be divorced with someone because he missed 2 mortgage payments is totally different than she divorced her husband because he was choking her out every Thursday and Saturday. Like, it's not, once again, we talk about the equally yoked. Equally, too many things occur that don't match up or level out. But whatever it is, you have to be comfortable with the determination you make. Instead of saying, I don't want you to divorce him, I want you to always do what's best for you. And let's talk about what that is and how we can sustain that. And then we'll realize being without him is not what's best for you because you love these shoes and the stuff and things. And you can put up with the elbows and the other stuff because that's just the way you're built. As opposed to, some people think that, and I'm going to say this, and I hate to say it at the end of the show, we can have another episode. Women have a tendency of wanting it all. They want him to be this tall and this strong and this rich and this talented and kung fu and fix cars and tutor children and do Doctors Beyond Borders. It's exhausting. If you're the man that most women want, you are exhausted because you are schizophrenically doing everything too much. And the idea of you have to figure out what's good for you. And when you know in your heart that it's good for you, it doesn't come up in conversation to test it with your girlfriends or test it with your sister. That, like, hey, if your man did this, what would you think? You're not even thinking that because you're so into what is going on. It's when you start getting off the frequency and now you're not into it anymore that you find question in it and wonder, am I tripping? And most of the time, you're not tripping. If you're asking yourself, it's kind of like saying, I don't mean to be racist, but you're about to say something racist. If you say, am I tripping? You believe you're tripping. Now, the person that loves you can tell you, this is where it's coming from. I know why you're tripping, and I forgive you for it because you came up hard, or this happened, or this guy scarred you, or whatever the case may be. But you have to work through those things slowly. And you have to ask a lot of questions of yourself. And you have to, more importantly, forgive yourself and then ask yourself, am I built for this? Because a lot of people, men and women, get involved in relationships that they're just not built for. You're not on his level. He's not on your level. And you think it's a project where you guys are going to meet in the middle and he's not trying to move. She's not trying to move. It's not going to be a situation where y'all magically come together unless there's a tragedy. He doesn't need you. He doesn't really want you. He's just not that into you. And the sooner that you understand that and make that determination of you really need that. Now, if you don't need that, that's cool. Be casual. You know what I'm saying? Meet them where they are, but don't never feel like you're being cheated or somebody's taking more from you than you're willing to give. That's the reciprocity. If you can keep a cycle of give and take, it's refreshing. It's just like oxygen. It's just like oxygen. That's why you put plants in your house, so you have fresh air. Right. What was the one that you wanted to say before we went back to the hypocrite? Because now I understand the hypocrite thing now, as far as saying something that you're not willing to ride out with, but everything's not the same.
I was pretty much just going to sum up, like, sometimes you have people who are examples of what you will become if you keep that same mindset in your family. And you go against that and they don't really like it. Then I wrote it down. I think we can navigate through that through another show because that's a lot.
Okay, that's cool. Let's go.
Role models. But,
that's cool. All right.
I think we're good. Any final thoughts?
So, yeah, my final thought is, if y'all have things that y'all feel like he should be working on or asking on y'all behalf, put them in the comment, especially on the Friday episode. So keep in mind, we do this live on Wednesdays, but then Friday, a shorter edited version comes out, and it doesn't have like y'all comments and things like that in it. But that's where y'all can go in and comment on the site, and we'll respond. I'll respond to those comments if you have questions. Now, I can only go so deep with text because I don't understand. I have to have explanations like that hypocrite comment. So just keep that in mind. But always tune Friday at 9. Every Friday, we launch the edited version, and it's usually 5 to 10 minutes shorter, and it's more concise and everything. So make sure you check that out. But absolutely tune in next week to Coach's Decision with Chris P. Reed, where we want you to bring your baggage, drop it off, and we'll sort through it. And until next week, we want to make sure that you take it easy, or at least take it how you can get it. Check y'all later.